Vishnu Gururdevo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Twameva Mata Cha Pita Twameva Twameva Bandhuscha Sakha Twameva Twameva Vedyadravinam Twameva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Mark, will you pause the recording just a moment? So where are we in our text?
Second Sanskrit on page 60.
Will you help us out, please, Aditi? I think you're muted.
Sorry. Nirashisha manarambham niramaskara mastutim akshinam kshinakarmanam tam deva brahmanam viduhu. The gods consider him a brahmana who neither blesses nor has any initiative to action. Neither does he salute nor praise anybody, who is never dejected and whose desire for work is annihilated.
Yes. So again, we want to take this not literalistically, but its implied meaning. So let's parse it. Again, these are the ideas. First of all, by using the term Brahmana, he doesn't mean someone of a particular caste. He means a knower of Brahman. The next idea.
Who neither blesses nor has any initiative to action.
Okay, so the idea here is the person of steady wisdom is not particularly concerned with having favorites. Oh, this person, I like them, they make me happy, as opposed to that person makes me unhappy, and the vast majority I'm indifferent to. I love what Swamiji used to say, whoever gets in, he says, my love is like a fire hose. Whoever gets in front of me gets blasted. So he was so present, so attentive to whoever was in front of him with all that grace. And here, when it means that the man or woman of steady wisdom has given up work, it means ego-prompted activity. The body will always work. Maintenance of the body is not possible without work. Even the most renounced of sadhus has to go out and beg. So we have to understand that we have let go of the idea that it's about acquiring, achieving, ambition, that somehow it's going to be better with a change in circumstances. Next idea.
Neither does he salute nor praise anybody.
Yes. So it's not like the person of steady wisdom sees position or hierarchy. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not polite. As you function in the society, the person of steady wisdom behaves appropriately. But there is no one who is their superior or inferior. All is Brahman. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you don't behave appropriately according to social custom when necessary, simply so that we don't agitate the minds of other people. That's simple. Any thoughts on this? Next idea.
Who is never dejected and whose desire for work is annihilated.
So, never disappointed with circumstances or loss. Just simply watching the play of the world go by. Swamiji found the world and its people very funny. He laughed a lot at our silliness. But the person of steady wisdom does not grieve or get depressed with loss or anything like that. And again, this idea, they may work in the world, but it's no longer ego prompted work. It's simply product of the force of the past. There's nothing more to be accomplished in life. Any thoughts? Next one, next idea.
That's it.
All right, next verse.
Vishishteha sansarebhihi pranamata ma purushana ma shirvadaha pradyujyate. Yasya yadapekshitam tam tam prati tadabhi riddhi partha namashiha. Tatha cha पुरुषाणां भिन्नरुचित्वात् तदभिमतान्वेषणे व्यग्रचित्तस्य लोकवासना वर्धते सा च ज्ञानविरोधिनी तथा च स्मृत्यन्तरम् लोकवासनया जनतोः शास्त्रवासन्यापि च देहवासन्या ज्ञानं यथा वन्नेव जायते. Distinguished householders give blessings to men who salute them. Wishing success in achieving one's desires is called blessing. Since men desire different things in their life, it creates mental unrest in him who tries to know these things and leads to the attraction for worldly people. This is opposed to knowledge. Another Smriti has it thus: one cannot realize the truth in its proper form, being distracted by the desire for people, scriptures, and for one's own body.
So again, let's parse this. So here he's now explaining much of what the prior verse set forth. So the first idea,
Distinguished householders give blessings to men who salute them.
yes. So even in our modern world, many of us look for the approval of others. I was talking with a student this past week who took a trip to Las Vegas, of all places, with a friend and a friend's family. There were layers of agitation. So this family is quite wealthy. They had a big house with a swimming pool, and they could go shopping on the strip in Las Vegas and stuff like that. This person, not in that class. So there was some jealousy. But more than that, there was concern with what the other people thought of them. They wanted to at least look okay, if not be somewhat special in those people's eyes. And in that context, it wasn't happening. And it upset them quite a bit. So we get this idea as a householder, meaning a person active in the world, talking with another person who was offered a promotion at work and they submitted the paperwork for it and stuff like that. Come to find out, well, actually, we've changed our mind. We don't think we want to give it to you. And then there was more negotiation. Well, we'll ask you to do the work and give you the money, but we won't give you the title. This person thought they ought to be acknowledged. They ought to have the title. All that kind of stuff is gone for the person of wisdom. The person of wisdom moves through the world, and when it comes to other people, you have nothing I want. Nothing. Which is enormous freedom. Next idea.
Since men desire different things in their life, it creates mental unrest in him who tries to know these things and leads to the attraction for worldly people.
So the point is, people want different things. So trying to please others or even please ourselves becomes problematic. And we get into competition, comparison, envy, jealousy, ambition. I remember talking with another person. They were sharing that when they were talking with all their friends, this person happens to be in IT. All their friends have now started startups. Oh, I don't have a startup. Somehow that's a new status thing. Have a startup. But why? So that I can compete in my own mind, status with people whose opinion I want, whose respect I want. How many of us do that? Or an even more common one in today's world, how parents will see their children as extensions of their own egos. Why aren't you having children yet? What are the neighbors going to say that I'm not a grandmother? How many people get that message? You two have been married so long, no children yet. What's wrong? That becomes so agitating. People get all involved with seeing other people as extensions of our own ego. I don't like the way my little brother is treating my parents, so I scream and yell at him. Extension of my own ego. Next idea.
This is opposed to knowledge. This being
Yes.
for worldly people.
Getting involved in all that kind of craziness. And then Vidyaranya goes on to explicate those three levels of vasana that we get involved with. Lokavasana, Shastravasana, Dehavasana. Lokavasana means, loka means world or people. This is all our relational desires and attachments. Affection, attachment to loved ones, family, and friends, but also the more problematic ones of ambition, jealousy, envy, comparison, greed, status, all that sort of stuff. That's in the whole area of what we call Loka Vasana. Shastravasana, the exoteric meaning is unnecessary study of the scriptures. People whose identity is lodged in what they know. In old-timey days, as I can quote scripture chapter and verse in Sanskrit, and even backwards if you want. What it comes to on a deeper level is I parade my learning as a possession. And even more problematic, I think I can figure stuff out. If I just gnaw on this problem like a dog on a bone, I'll be able to figure it out. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? And even at the level of spirituality, if I just read enough spiritual books, if I just go to enough satsangs, if I watch enough YouTube videos, I'll get enlightened. Shastravasana. It's not about the acquisition of information. And then the third one, Deha Vasana. Deha means the body. Somehow I think by pleasing the body, beautifying the body, that's going to do it. And of course, that's so deeply linked, especially with young people, with sex. I'm always off to the spa. But that's going to do. And here Vidyaranya is saying, not that these are evil or bad, it's just human nature. But they are obstacles to sadhana. Did we get all the pieces of that one?
Yes, we did.
All right, next one.
एतच्चारम्भनमस्कारादिष्वपि दृष्टव्यम् आरम्भः स्वार्थं परोपकारार्थं वा गृहक्षेत्रादिसम्पादनप्रयत्नः तावेतावाशीर्वादारम्भो मुक्तेन त्याज्यो न चाशीर्वादाभावे प्रणमतां नृणां खेदः शङ्कनीयः लोकवासनाखेदयोरुभयोः परिहाराय निखिलाशीर्वादप्रतिनिधित्वेन नारायण शब्दप्रयोगात् आरम्भस्तु सर्वोऽपि दुष्ट एव तथा च स्मृतिः सर्वारम्भा हि दोषेण धूमेनाग्निरिवावृतः. It is to be understood that the same is true in the cases of salutation, undertaking of projects, etc. The effort to gain houses, land, etc., either for personal use or for the benefit of others, is called the initiative of action. Blessing and initiative, these two things are to be given up by a liberated person. It cannot be argued that if not blessed, a saluting man will feel unhappy, because to exclude unhappiness in others and to avoid attraction for the worldly men in a liberated person, the use of the word Narayana, representing all blessings, is prescribed.
Yeah.
All sorts of initiatives are bad. It is thus said in the Smriti, all enterprises are clouded by defects as fire by smoke.
Yes, yes. So again, the idea here is if you are in a particular culture where you take on the trappings of the spiritual life, in India, you become a Swami. In the US, you become a priest or a rabbi. People will treat you with respect. And especially if you've come from a working class or a lower class origin, this can be heady stuff. I have a very dear friend who was from a very poor farming family in Ireland. Most of his relatives weren't educated very well. He went into the junior seminary, then on to the seminary, became a well-educated priest. One of the things he liked about it was the status of it. He's since left the priesthood. But this is one of the things that Vidyaranya is talking about. People who enter the spiritual life to run away perhaps from some other issue and then get attached to the status that the spiritual life gives you. And then again, I don't know how many people who are involved in a spiritual organization who get caught up in what I call an edifice complex. I need to build an ashram. Now we're going to build a temple. We're going to build this and build that. And then all of a sudden, worldly ambition is justified because of its spiritual implications. Very careful of this sort of stuff. I can remember another disciple of Swamiji's who also teaches Vedanta. God bless him. He came by to visit me maybe 15 years ago. Walks in the door, says, "Hi, Jim. I'm getting famous now." And all I could do was go, "Oh my God, you're still running that one." His desire was, I want to be a popular guru. Person of steady wisdom gives all of this up. Now, acclaim may come, but it's meaningless. It's no capacity to raise the level of the yogi's bliss. Next idea. Or did we get all of it?
Just the idea that to exclude unhappiness in others and to avoid attraction for the worldly men in a liberated person, the use of the word Narayana, representing all blessings, is prescribed.
Yeah. So here he says, how do you greet other people? In our tradition, we use the term Hariya. That's the greeting, the salutation for everyone, high or low. All right, next one, next verse.
Namaskarepi vividisha sannyasino abhihitaha. Yo bhate purvasannyasi tulyo vai dharmato yadi tasmai pranamaha kartavyo netaraya kadachana. Tatra purvatva dharmatulyatva vichare chittam vikshipyate. Ata eva namaskara matra eva bahavaha kalahayamana upalabhyante. Salutation is prescribed for the Vividisha sannyasin thus. A senior monk should be saluted if he belongs to the same order of monks, but never anyone else is to be saluted. The mind gets stirred up by the effort to ascertain the seniority of a monk and his order. Hence, many are found quarreling over salutation.
That's funny. So what he's talking about is the tradition that if there's a senior monk, one should do a namaskar to that particular monk, but not to someone necessarily lower. This whole idea of status within spiritual organizations. So here's a true story. In 1988, I and a bunch of my students traveled to India, to Siddhabari, which is where Swamiji had an ashram in the foothills of the Himalayas. And we were studying Viveka Chudamani. Now, in those days, Swamiji's custom was at the end of the brahmachari training course in Mumbai, he would have the brahmacharis come up and he would teach them Viveka Chudamani himself. So all the rest of us non-brahmacharis were in the back, and always in the front were the kids in the yellow and in the white, and any, visiting swamis. They would be doing the chanting and stuff like that. Well, it seems that one of the brahmacharis that had just finished the course went to the kitchens and said, "We are brahmacharis now. We should be served first at dinner." This got back to Swamiji. He was furious. So the brahmachari was caught up in his or her new status. The brahmachari, you should treat me with more respect now. He said, "You dishonored the mission, you dishonored the tradition. From now on, for the rest of the camp, you will serve the rest of the people and you will eat last." And he made the whole brahmachari class suffer because of this one person's poor judgment. He was furious. And I always remember when someone once asked him what's his title in the Chinmaya mission. Today they call him Puja Gurudev, worshipful, godlike teacher. That's what that means. But when he was asked what his title was, Mukhya Seva, head servant. So the sadhu, person aspiring to the life, freedom, sees themselves as the servant of everyone. I am your servant. It's my job. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Tatra nimittam vartika karirdarshitam pramadino bahishjattam vishunaha kalahotsukaha sannyasino api drishyante deva sandhu shitashayah. The Vartikara Sureshvaracharya has shown the cause of it thus. There are even sannyasins with vitiated mind due to misfortune who are found to be careless, interested in worldly affairs, backbiting, and quarrelsome.
So here he acknowledges in monastic traditions where people have become renunciates but have yet to be rooted in this knowledge. Worldly politics emerge. Gossip, competition. Many people have romantic notions about what living in an ashram or joining a monastic community is like. I've heard it said it's like having a marriage, not just to one person, but to 20 or 30 of them, and you've never met them before. Or the other idea is if you go live in an ashram, it's like being in a pressure cooker. All of our kleshas, our character defects, our afflictions, rise to the surface. See? Certainly by other people, hopefully by ourselves as well, so we can work on it. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Muktasya namaskara bhagavat pade darshatah namadibhyah pare bhumne swarajye chet stito advaya pranameta kam tadatmagyo na karyam karmana tada. His Holiness Shankaracharya has shown that the liberated one has no concern with salutation thus. Whom should the knower of the self salute if he is established in his own glory, which is infinite, non-dual, and beyond name, etc.? Actions then have no utility for him.
So for the person of steady wisdom, all is Brahman, every person is Brahman. So there's no concern for hierarchies, even for themselves or others. Swamiji never wanted us to be servile. He wanted us to meet him eye to eye. Now, as he got older, he had a hard time resisting the tendencies of others who wanted to fawn over him and worship him and do pada puja and all that sort of stuff. And he just kind of let it happen. But he had no concern for it. It wasn't anything he particularly wanted. And again, if one is in an environment, behave appropriate to custom. So if I'm in a church, I stand and kneel as the other participants do out of politeness. When people come, I greet them because it's polite, but not because of hierarchy. Someone's higher or someone's lower. All that is gone. Now, for those of us in the modern world who've got jobs, are we attached to that kind of opinion? Mark, you can probably share with us. A lot of people complain about some doctors, especially surgeons, who think they're God. Have you run across that in the medical field of people who are very concerned with being treated with particular deference?
Yes, of course.
What is a doctor? A glorified plumber, actually. Fixes pipes and stuff. So if it's given you to be a teacher, and you can't want it, you've got to, the students create the teacher, not the teacher. People will come if they want what you have. But how should you see yourself? You are Brahman first and foremost. But your equipment, just a Dharma holder. My job is to hand people tools. What they do with them, that's their business. The teacher is like a midwife or a gardener. That's the best you can say. All right, next verse.
चित्तकालुष्य हेतोर्नमस्कारस्य प्रतिषेधपि सर्वसाम्यबुद्धया प्रसादहेतुर्नमस्कारो अभ्युपेयते तथा च स्मृतिः ईश्वरो जीवकाल्या प्रविष्टो भगवानिति प्रणमेद दण्डवद्भूमावश्च चण्डालगोखरम्. Although salutation causing tumult is forbidden, yet the salutation which brings about perfect tranquility through the idea of equality of all things is permitted.
Yeah.
In this respect, the Smriti has it thus. One should salute prostrating oneself even before a dog, a chandala, a cow, and an ass, acknowledging them as God himself, since he, the Almighty, has entered into and is present in everything in the form of an individual soul.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful notion. So the aspirant as well as the person of steady wisdom salutes the divinity in everyone and everything without distinction. And so, for those of us who are householders in the world, assume a virtue if you have it not, as Hamlet says to Gertrude. Endeavor to treat everyone with respect. Next verse.
Stutirmanushya vipshaya pratishidyate na twishvara vishaya tatha cha brihaspati smritihi adarena yatha stauti dhanvantam dhaneshchaya tatha ched vishwakartaram ko na mucheta bandhanat. Praise of men is forbidden, but not of God. The Smriti of Brihaspati has it thus. Who would not be liberated from bondage should he praise the creator of the universe, even as he, desirous of wealth, respectfully praises a wealthy man?
So the idea here is we do not give praise or respect to other people to curry their favor. What we do is acknowledge the divinity in everyone. That's the point he's getting at. Treat everyone with dignity, no matter their station. Next verse.
Akshinatvam madinatvam ata eva smritihi alabdhva na vishadi syat kale yatyashanam kvachit labdhva na shishyeda dhriti manubhyam devatantritam. Never dejected, akshinam, means never miserable. There is a smriti in this regard. He who is steadfast should not be sad if somewhere sometimes he does not get a meal, nor should he be happy when he gets it. Getting or not getting, both are controlled by fate.
Yes. So, what Krishna says in the Gita, thy right is to work alone, never to its fruits. So here about getting or not getting a meal, we can broaden the metaphor. It has to do with success or failure in any endeavor. So if you're, for example, a psychotherapist, you have lots of clients, no big deal. If you've only got a handful, no big deal. If nobody shows up, no big deal. Thy right is to work alone. Give up our focus on our attachment to the fruits of action. Now let's subtleize this. That doesn't mean if we're engaged in a particular task, we don't see from the results where we might improve. So, for example, for a doctor, since we got a doctor, if your scheduling is such that by 10 o'clock in the morning, you're an hour behind in your appointments, seeing people, and your patients get angry and upset, here the teaching is not, don't worry about it, let it go. Maybe you ought to take a look at the way in which the office schedules you. Maybe they're not giving you enough time to spend with a patient. It doesn't mean we don't learn from the results, but we don't get attached. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Kshina karmatvam vidhi nishedhanadhinatvam nistre gurnye pathi vicharatam ko vidhi ko nishedhaha shukashtakaha iti smaranat etadevabhipratyaha pretya bhagavatapyuktam त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदा निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थो निर्योगक्षेम atmavan. The state of being rid of the desires for work, shinakaram means free from the scriptural injunctions and prohibitions. For as the Smriti has it, what is injunction or prohibition to them who walk the way beyond the three modes? Keeping this in mind, the Blessed Lord said, the Vedas deal with the action of the threefold modes. But be thou free, O Arjuna, from this threefold nature. Be free from the pairs of opposites. Be ever balanced, free from the thought of getting and keeping, and be possessed of the self.
Yes. So, for the person who's in the level of being an aspirant, various practices are suggested. Pray, meditate. You might, according to your tradition, do ritual, puja, yajna. These open the heart and purify the mind. They're not bad. In fact, at one level of our practice, they're essential. But for the person of steady wisdom, there's nothing to be gained by them. So, for example, in 2015, when I went to Jaipur with my friend Devda to meet his guru, so every evening in the ashram they did arati. Guru Dev did not participate. He sat there in his chair reading the newspaper. Who was there for him to salute? What was to be gained by him worshiping with incense and song any god or teacher? I had no need to propitiate these gurus or deities, but because I was a guest in the ashram, my sense is it was good manners to participate in arati. I leave that environment, I come home, I don't do it here. Nothing to be gained. Now there's another nuance to this. The seeker is seen to be doing spiritual practices that they may purify the mind and realize the self. The Jivan Mukta may be seen to be doing spiritual practices. It doesn't increase their knowledge of the self, but it's the highest form of worldly pleasure. They may be singing the Lord's praises because they enjoy it. They may meditate because they love to revel in the self. They may go hang out with their guru or another Mahatma. Not that that person can show them more self. Oh, it's a joy to bask in the presence of a Mahatma. Always. No, we don't go seeking it out. All right, next one.
Naradaha Smartavyah
I
Santatam.
think you were muted at the beginning. Start it again.
Oh, Narada Smartavyah Santatam Vishnur Vismartavyo Na Jatuchit Sarve Vidhi Syuretaryoreva Kinkaraha. Narada also said, ever remember the Lord Vishnu, the all-pervading self. Never forget him. All scriptural injunctions and prohibitions are subservient to these two rules, i.e., these two rules are the object of all vidhi and nishedha.
Yes. So, Lord Narada, I don't know if this is a quote from Narada Bhakti Sutra. It might be. But the best of all spiritual practices is the constant remembrance of the divine. What's the highest form of that? Atmaramana. To revel in your own self-nature. It's the highest. It's the best. For some of us, going to the temple and doing puja is just too noisy. Going to kirtan and chanting the name of the Lord, it's too noisy. What can we do? Come home. Be in the self. Be a full knower of the Supreme. Retire into the Supreme. Drown the mind in the self. That you can do anytime, anywhere, there are no conditions. All right, I think this is a good place to stop today. Where are we for next week?
The last verse on page 64.
All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.